Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. And I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to take you guys down memory lane and see if you guys can find any similarities to today in the video I'm about to show you and the video that's gonna follow right after. Check it out.
By the end of the 1960s, pay raises for postal workers were virtually non-existent, rising by a scant $2,260 after 21 years of employment, despite the physical demands of the job, which led to turnover rates of 23% every 5 years. Tensions reached a boiling point, however, after Congress proposed a 41% pay raise in congressional salaries, while their proposed increase for postal worker pay clocked in at a dismal 5.4%. In response, letter carriers in New York called for a strike on March 17, 1970, and when union bosses from the National Association of Letter Carriers refused to strike on grounds that it was illegal for federal workers to do so, a group of New York pro-strike postal workers, led by Vincent Sombrado, defied union management and walked off their jobs the following morning.
Since Wednesday, when 6,500 New York City letter carriers refused to shoulder their mail pouches, the strike has spread from coast to coast. Now it directly affects 14 states and has involved about 200,000 postal workers.
You can't live in New York City on what they're giving us.
I've been told I'm eligible for welfare, but I don't want to take welfare.
As letter carriers took to picket lines in Manhattan, some 150,000 to 200,000 postal workers in 30 other cities followed suit, making the event the largest walkout of federal employees in U.S. history, at the same time freezing delivery of some 270 million pieces of mail a day. In an age before the internet and email, documents critical to government, finance, and other industries were sidelined in postal warehouses, at the same time bringing financial hardships to poor people waiting on welfare checks, while young men fearful of being drafted into the Vietnam War were left to worry if they were about to be called up for active duty or exempted from the war. In response to the mounting logjam, President Richard M. Nixon declared a federal emergency, calling in the National Guard to deliver the mail in an effort to keep the American economy on track.
What exactly are you doing?
I don't really know.
Do you think you're doing it as fast as a postal worker?
No, I don't.
And after 8 days of sorting and delivering mail by inexperienced reservists, the Wildcat strikers went back to work on Nixon's promise of a retroactive pay hike of 6%, followed by an additional 8% after Nixon signed the Postal Reorganization Act on August 12th of that same year, making the Great Postal Strike of 1970 a time of letterless stagnation for Americans everywhere.
501 days in, the people delivering our mail are still looking for a deal.
There's frustration. I've got to tell you, there's a lot of anger, and it's from our as the president of a branch of about 600 people. Every day we're getting people on the workroom floor saying, what are you guys doing? And we're doing everything we can.
Higher pay, more benefits, and safety measures all on the table to keep pace with growing costs of living. National Association of Letter Carriers Branch 230 President Chris Gannett says pay is so low, some workers are forced to sleep in their cars.
How are we supposed to provide for a family when we can't even provide for ourselves?
Federal law says postal carriers can't officially go on strike. That means if they can't get the things they want, we have a harder time getting the things we need.
How are we supposed to get people to take a job and have integrity and be proud to be a letter carrier when management doesn't want to pay them to be the professional that they should be?
With the holidays just months away, the Postal Service may call on retirees to fill gaps in their workforce. But it's not a guarantee for a service Branch 44 President Paul Boulanger says is still essential.
I think that when you start looking at dollars and cents, you're never going to make money going to a small house in the corner of a town that's 50 miles away. It's a service we provide. And I think the service is more important than the dollar signs.
And you know, despite everyone, including the government, needing us, they still don't think we're worth the money to fund. They're pretending we need to make a certain amount, like if we were an Amazon or a UPS. needing to turn a profit just to stay operational, even though it's written into the Constitution. Now, what does that do for a service like us that we have routes that we do that aren't profitable, and we can't even strike? Well, it means we never get things like locality pay, which every other agency gets as a bonus. They don't think about it as lowering pay in some areas and saving money on the back end like the post office wants to do now. We have a harder time making a living since the wages aren't keeping up in general.
The audit found high cost of living and less competitive pay are reasons why the Postal Service struggles to hire and retain. And while costs have gone up since 2019, the Postal Service's hourly pay remained unchanged.
You know, even our fast food restaurants are starting at $24 an hour, and I understand that the Postal Service is pretty far below that.
The federal audit recommends USPS to explore the possibility of increasing pay.
And we have a limit placed on how much we should make, basically because there's some imaginary budget out there that we need to hit a certain amount of money. Otherwise we cost too much to fund and they don't want to pay any more than that. And add to the mix our unions. Our unions have been complacent, and I think it's because of this no strike law. They haven't really had the leverage that they need to do things like the other unions, and that's kind of given them an excuse to do the minimum, I would say. And it's also created, I think, this culture of secrecy around them where they don't talk about their contracts, they keep things to themselves, they keep things from the members. Even though we're paying dues for this information, for that transparency, we're not getting the same level of transparency that we would get from, let's say, the Teamsters or UAW on any of the things going on. And then we get stuck with people like Brian Renfro. To add insult to injury, I don't know if you guys remember a couple months back, I think it was, where Biden was in the UAW picket line with the UAW president talking about how they need to be able to make a certain amount of money, how it's important for them to be able to strike. He's supposed to be very pro-labor, and we have a pro-labor party in power right now, and they never once addressed our issues that we're going through, even though we have the same issues as the Teamsters with lack of AC in trucks. Now we have robberies that are slowly being addressed, but that was a long-standing problem as well. He goes on stage.
First time ever a sitting U.S. president has joined a picket line in modern times. Here's what he had to say from Wayne County, Michigan.
Heard me say many times, Wall Street didn't build the country, the middle class built the country. Unions built the middle class. That's a fact. So let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now. Thank you very much.
And he praises them, but we're right under his nose, and he hasn't once addressed any of our issues. I haven't seen any other Democrats address that issue as well. The teachers, railroad workers, they've been getting ignored as well. The railroad workers, they had to accept a contract that some of their unions already rejected from the White House, but they had to be forced into it because of the president intervening in their bargaining. We are forced to accept the lowball offers that the post office gives us because we don't have the same leverage, or we have to go risk it all with an arbitrator that could do what happened in 2013, where they created Table 2 saying that we cost too much, this or that, and it could be a binding agreement. We're still trying to recover from that Table 2 disaster from 10 years ago, and right now we have a postmaster in DeJoy who's basically running like he's still in XPO Logistics, or like if it's an Amazon, worrying about profitability, costs, and he's cutting our overtime in nationally. So I know some people, they might have some overtime here or there, but he's looking to cut costs. He's not looking to pay us anymore. He doesn't care if we make a living or not. And he's just looking for any excuse to pay us as little as possible.
You know, Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
And from the union side, what leverage we do have is basically being ignored, in my opinion. We have stuff like the Postal Reorganization Act that's supposed to give us an edge in negotiations to say that we need to be competitive in pay. And we're too scared to go to arbitration. We picked a neutral arbitrator already with the post office, and he's basically being benched. Like, he's on reserve right now, and he basically got chosen for nothing. And the sad part is, because of the way these negotiations work, they rely on precedent. So basically, the whole post office is waiting on what Brian Renfro can negotiate, if you can believe that or not. It's basically a joke at this point. They're really just taking advantage of us with the law and with the complacency of people like Brian Renfro and the unions. The only thing we can do now is raise awareness, and I think the local branches of NALC have been doing a great job, like in that news video that I showed you guys earlier. Ironically, the national for the NALC, they don't want to endorse any of this. They've been telling some local branches they don't want any of their signage or flags shown at these events. They're trying to distance themselves as much as possible. And some of the changes we can do along with these protests and to the media, we can start to change some of the leadership. And you see that with organizations like the Fighting NALC or the Concerned Letter Carriers that are starting to get a grassroots movement to raise awareness among the members and letting them know what's going on with the executive levels of their unions and how complacent they've been getting, and hopefully that results in some leadership changes that we need to see if we can get some better leadership. So I hope you guys enjoyed my rant there and the history lesson I provided in the beginning, and I hope to catch you guys on the next one. Peace.